Well, we're going to begin with James Earl Carter Jr. took the oath of office as Jimmy, of course. Former President Jimmy Carter, 39th president, died yesterday. He was 100 years old, and the Carter Center says he died at home there in Plains, Georgia, peacefully surrounded by his large and loving family. And it may be fitting, in fact, that the former president died on Sunday because he lived his life as a man of faith. John Dickerson spoke to the former president about that faith and how it guided him through an extraordinary life of service in what was their final interview together. We asked John for his thoughts on Carter's legacy and his decades of public service.
Almost a decade before his death, Jimmy Carter learned he had brain cancer and that he would not have long to live.
I've had a wonderful life. I've had thousands of friends, and I've had an exciting and adventurous and gratifying existence. So I was surprisingly at ease.
To be at ease in the face of eternity. That equanimity and poise was not the product of some pill or treatment.
Thank you, everybody.
It was built on a foundation of the faith Carter has practiced all his life. The diagnosis turned out to be better, and 3 years later, I visited with Carter while he was building homes for Habitat for Humanity. Mr. President, you are 94. It is nearly 94 degrees outside. What are you doing here?
Well, I'm building habitat houses.
My name is Jimmy Carter, and I'm running for president.
I asked about the presidency, of course, and politics. But I wanted to know about that foundation he'd built his life on, because that's what was on display there, as we were surrounded by the foundations of new houses.
I have always been a Christian, and I think one of the key things we learn from Christ is that we should help people in need. And it's very difficult for somebody who's well off to cross a barrier and get in touch with a very poor family who's in need and never has had a decent home. But Habitat provides that avenue very automatically.
He'd been building houses for Habitat for 34 years by the time we met. I asked him how the diagnosis had changed his worldview.
It's made me appreciate life more. It's made me value the things that never change much more. I remember quite often what my high school superintendent used to say, Miss Julia Coleman. She used to say, we must accommodate changing times in which we are involved right this moment, but we must cling to principles that never change. So I think each person has to define those principles that for them never change, like truth and honesty and integrity and love and forgiveness and things of that kind.
Carter kept at it. A year after we talked, he took a fall, and even though he had to get 14 stitches, the 39th president was drilling and hammering the very next day, as he'd been taught. Though the circumstances had changed, he still clung to the principles that never change. Tonight, people will eat dinner and sleep between the walls Carter helped raise during his life. A life which, in its selflessness, faith, and example, leaves behind a blueprint of how to build a foundation for one.
Principles, forgiveness. You know, I had a chance to go to one of the Sunday school sermons, and it was incredible. He talked about forgiveness, Timothy 1, and your ability to forgive those even who are your greatest enemies. He was so skilled at seeing the root of a problem. And with Habitat for Humanity, many of you know, that was not his organization. He was simply a volunteer, but he took that organization and helped to build it to what it is today. The daughter of the founder told me once, she said, without him, I don't think we would have been able to have given the number of houses to the number of people we have in the thousands.
When I think of Jimmy Carter, I don't think of him in a suit in the White House. I think of him with that red kerchief and a little bit of sawdust on his body there. But, you know, faith was so important. His advisors say that when he was in the White House, he used to be frustrated when they'd say what the politically right thing was to do, because he wanted to know what the godly or just right thing to do was. That's what guided him.
To be at ease in the face of eternity. I think that's a beautiful line and sums up who Jimmy Carter was. Thank you very much, John Dickerson, for that.